I'm 34, and I was like around was it 2019, 2020? I was looking for a house, and just being hit with the cold reality of like what I could afford and where I could afford, and what that was going to mean for commuting, because I'm have to work in the city. I'm always going to have to work in the city based on my career, what I've chosen. And so just like the the pigeonhole that kind of puts you into, and it was just kind of working me up. And then you experience the vampire ridden process of having to buy a house, and you see all the people that come along and take their pound of flesh, and you're googling why lenders mortgage insurance exists, and you're thinking, wait a minute, so I'm paying the bank so that they have no risk lending me money. Like, why am I paying this? Like, just like the people who actually make the most sense on this issue are like journalists and economists, not really planners, because I think planners just have that very sort of like one-dimensional planning view on things, whereas like I think journalists sort of have that, okay, I've got to figure out everything about it kind of issue. So there's a few people in America who I'd been following who were just making a lot of sense on the issue, and then I just sort of I dipped my toe into it by just explaining it, I guess. And then I ended up writing an article that did pretty well. And then I thought, oh, I don't want to be a person who just whinges about the problem. I want to actually try to like figure it out. So I'm like, oh, I'm just going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to write an article about solving the housing crisis. And then I realized, oh, I can't do this. Like, this is actually covers too many disciplines. It covers economics. It covers everything basically, because it's such a nebulous issue that touches every little aspect of society. It's not just about design. It's not just about planning. It's about how we grow our wealth. It's about how much space they take up in cities. It's about cultural ingrained expectations, and so I ended up writing 3 articles on housing policy responses for it, then with 2 of them being about increasing supply, and then one of them about decreasing demand, which I was really out of my depth on, to be honest. I shouldn't, because it was, again, it's impossible to be an expert on this issue, which is again why I think it's so nebulous. And then the final article that I just wrote, I wrote one that basically takes all of those policy proposals and says, okay, which ones of those are actually politically salient? Which ones of those could actually get over the line? So I think there was like 26 or so of them. And only about 5 of them, I estimated, are actually kind of palatable to the average voter, and they're all in the supply side, and they're all in either inner city urban renewal or greenfield expansion. And that's where I kind of end on this big down note, where I sort of say, well, given our inability to reconcile this is where all that pent up energy is going to go: greenfield expansion and inner city densification. And that's kind of where we're going. And I have this kind of like hypothetical scenario where I say, well, we're heading towards Southeast Queens blob, which is just going to be this huge blob between Noosa and Coolangatta and out to Toowoomba, out to the west. It's a bit silly, but that's where we're going though.